Spoilers ahead for Binary Star Hero by Concrete Parasite. If you haven't played it, stop now and do yourself a favor. This game is incredible. It's free on itch.io, it's short, and it will leave you thinking about it for months. Go play it first, you'll thank me later. Okay, you're back? It was amazing, right? I've been obsessed with this game for months, and I need to talk about why. Binary Star Hero isn't just a yandere superhero romance visual novel. It's a deconstruction of binary thinking across the physical, mental, and emotional. At the center of this is Ray, a man who completely externalizes the most important question everyone will face in life: who am I? Instead of defining himself, he lets others decide. Given his upbringing, that makes complete sense, but we'll get to that. What matters is that Ray, despite being the main character, doesn't decide who he is. You do. Through your choices as his love interest, you act as judge and jury, deciding who Ray is and who he might become. But here's where it gets interesting. The game judges you too. Your choices don't just shape Ray, they reveal something about you. That's what makes Binary Star Hero so brilliant. And by the end of this video, I hope you'll walk away with a better understanding of how binary thinking can manifest in unexpected ways and what it takes to move beyond it. Quick disclaimer, this is just my analysis, and you're free to disagree with 100% of literally everything I say, so let's try to be civil here, okay? For simplicity, I'll be referring to the player character as Danielle with the alias Caliber. I'm excited to dive in. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and let's get started.
Danielle. Heroes are glorified military weapons. At the end of the day, we're just the police, but with shiny new packaging and horrifying abilities.
Let's start by defining our terms. What is binary thinking? Binary thinking sees things as X, Y, red, blue, left, right, with no middle ground or alternative possibilities. Superheroes are one of the best examples available of binary thinking, and I'm so glad Concrete Parasite chose this as the theme for her story. Superheroes are the paragons of old manifested in a new modern form. Despite their amazing power and force of will, they never abuse that. They never allow themselves to smother others or look down on them. They are always rising above baser human instincts, whether that be violence, greed, lust, or whatever else. And it is this ultimate virtue, compassionate self-overcoming, which makes them good. Compare this with the typical villain who is the failed hero. They have amazing power and force of will, but they inevitably choose to abuse it. This is Harvey Dent, once dedicated to fighting crime, twisting his sense of justice to justify his criminality. This is Darth Vader, once a heroic Jedi Knight destined for greatness, allowing his fear and anger to let him betray those closest to him. To the binary thinker, you're either good or evil. There's no middle ground. So the author takes a villain, makes him the main character of their visual novel, and forces the rest of us to deal with our own binary thinking. You might be hesitant to call Ray a villain. Don't let the romance aspect of the game blind you to reality. He is a villain, and I'll prove it to you by utilizing Christopher Vogler's rendition of the hero's journey, which comes in 12 stages. The ordinary world, the call to adventure, refusal of the call, meeting with the mentor, crossing the first threshold, tests allies and enemies, approach to the innermost cave, the ordeal, reward, the road back, the resurrection, return with the elixir. Just because the framework is called the hero's journey doesn't mean that the character going through this journey has to be good. It's more of a protagonist's journey. A protagonist can be good, evil, or somewhere in between. What matters is that they change in some way throughout the journey. In the case of Ray, we learned that his first 5 stages are directly tied to NAHA. Consequently, it's NAHA which brings the most conflict to Ray's life.
If the government doesn't make us work for them, these abilities can end up being a fast pass to anarchy and terrorism.
The North American Heroes Association, or NAHA, is run by the military to control those with superpowers, and it is Ray who is their favorite tool because his power eclipses all others. His power is that of the black hole. He rips apart, he takes into himself, and he leaves nothing of you behind. He consumes you. It is under the NAHA's command that Ray murders his brother and takes his power, laser vision. Every time Ray prepares to use the first of his stolen powers, his eyes glow a sharp, bloody red. Civilians see Ray as Binary Star, the Superman of their world, whose diamond-melting eyes promise them safety from evildoers. The underworld sees those red eyes as the bringers of death. They say eyes are windows to the soul, so what type of soul does Ray have? The story posits that Ray is savior or Ray is death, the first binary. Which is it? We'll find out as we go. For now, I would argue that Ray is not yet a villain when he murders his brother. Up to that point, the story makes it clear that he was forced to do it. He was raised in a government lab. As its government-funded military weapon, NAHA never gave Ray an option to not murder his brother. The absence of choice, more importantly, the absence of thought necessary to make that choice, negates arguments over villainy. Here, Ray is a bad person, but he's not a villain.
And I say, Zangief, you are bad guy. But this does not mean you're bad guy.
After murdering his brother, NAHA put Ray under the tutelage of Steel Sheriff for 11 years. Under him, Ray was shown how to be a proper dog of the state throughout his youth and early teens. He did as he was told by the state. He killed who the state said needed killing, and in return, the state gave him more opportunities to devour its enemies. We're used to the military bureaucracy being branded as evil for so many stories, but you'll be happy to know that Ray's teacher was also objectively a villain. Steel Sheriff was known to commit sexual assaults, murder the innocents, and abuse civilians, but he was able to get away with it thanks to NAHA's protection. I believe this is where the second binary of the story crops up, this time from Ray's perspective. Good people work within the law. Bad people work outside it. Ray says that before he saw Danielle, he truly believed that if someone committed a crime, they're opening themselves up for punishment. The world would be better without them. This is statism, the belief that the state is the arbiter of morality. It is the perfect moral framework to instill in a military tool, which is what Ray is at this point. Like any good soldier, Ray was taught over the years to follow orders. If those orders mean doing something unconscionable and morally dubious, the soldier is encouraged to believe that the state has a good, justifiable reason for it. The best example of this is how the government, after fighting a foreign war that dragged on for 2 decades, ended it by planting Ray and other heroes into the thick of it. Yes, they ended a war, but they did it through massacre.
So then, I guess we perform war crimes and terrorism under the name of the government instead.
Ray was 16. Superpowers or not, Ray is still a person, and back then he was a boy. A boy likely traumatized by what he saw and what he was forced to do. The juxtaposition between statism and the death he saw and enacted likely began to wear on Ray's conscience. How can it be that bad people work outside the law when he knows he's doing bad things for the state and is being personally taught by a man who does the same? If what they were doing was truly good, why was he so miserable killing? Why did they hide what they were doing from the public? Surely the cognitive dissonance between what he believed and his behavior had to begin here. Eventually, Ray grew too powerful for NAHA to control him without his consent. Ray never liked Steel Sheriff, and so he cut ties with him. NAHA built publicity around it to make it sound like they still controlled Ray, but in truth, they really didn't. Steel Sheriff retired in Oklahoma without ever facing consequences for the innocents he hurt because of NAHA. NAHA used a PR spin of Binary Star paving his own path towards herodom. This, when Ray is finally able to say no to NAHA, is when Ray becomes a villain. Because Ray does have a choice now. He is the most powerful person on the planet. NAHA cannot control him, and their PR spin is their submission to his will made clear to the player. Let me make it clear, Ray's creators, Ray's gods, cannot control him. Ray is free. Ray can choose to not use his ability anymore, not to steal any more powers, but he doesn't. Instead, he tells us,
My ability is just one, to pull in smaller stars and devour them whole. Every ability I have, I killed for. Criminals, villains, civilians, even other heroes. Some were forced upon me. Others were of my own volition.
Ray chose to be a villain by continuing to work with NAHA, and he justified it with statism. But the cognitive dissonance between these two paths still ate at him. Ray knows he's a military tool, and he's supposed to be committing atrocities for the government, but he also thinks that if someone commits a crime, they are opening themselves up for punishment. That includes war criminals, even if PR teams say otherwise. The world would be better without them. The world would be better without him. Through its actions, NAHA instilled statism within Ray, forming the foundation of his external locus of control when it comes to matters of morality. This moral framework is inherently rigid, and its fragility is evident when NAHA's PR team can't spin enough stories to wash away the blood from Ray's hands. Cognitive dissonance was inevitable. Doubt was inevitable. Statism had to be tested, and its greatest threat was a criminal.
The day that I met you was the first day I learned something new about myself. I learned that I could love, that I could hope to be human. Thank you for letting me dream, Danielle.
The first time Ray saw Caliber, she was playing with a cat after breaking and entering into a legislator's house. She had jewels, money, and blackmail. She was breaking the law, but she was playing with a cat. She wasn't malicious. It made Ray hesitate from killing her. It made him curious. I initially wrote this off as the usual "you're not like other girls" trope in romance stories, or in this case, "you're not like other criminals." But after thinking things over, I think I get where Ray was coming from. As a military weapon, up to this point, he wasn't dealing with simple petty criminals. He was fighting enemies of the state. You know the type, quote-unquote terrorists and threats to democracy. It's very unlikely that he had the time or the opportunity to observe someone who was actually laid back in his presence, even though Danielle didn't know of him at that point. So, Ray watched Caliber go about her life as a criminal, sometimes guessing correctly her next move, other times not. Her rejection of statism by taking from the rich and giving to the poor, even if those poor were her own family who were saddled with medical bills, fascinated him. Ray likely learned that Caliber was with Double Vision at this time as well, and we see that Double is an extremely sadistic man. So the juxtaposition between Caliber and Double probably just heightened his curiosity. How could she love a bad man? How could she be with a bad person and do good? Caliber broke Ray's binary thinking. She was, unironically, non-binary.
I guess I became a little obsessed. You broke my ideals, and I had to figure out why.
It is through this realization that Ray begins to see Caliber as the only truly neutral person in his life. Ray only sees himself as a military tool. Civilians see him as a paragon. Criminals, villains, and heroes fear him. The government hates him for evading its authority. But Caliber is different. It's never outright stated if Caliber has any powers. What we do know is she doesn't care about NAHA, titles, PR, fame, wealth, any of that. She's a truly neutral party. As a thief, Caliber only stole from the wealthiest of society, and she used the money to pay her loans, medical bills, and support her family. Once that was done, she stopped thieving and became a low-wage barista. She chose the quiet life. Ray craves judgment from a neutral party to end his cognitive dissonance, to convince him he's not just a weapon, and to him, Danielle is that judge. If Danielle chooses to pull closer to Ray, or she chooses to pull away, it's because she's passed judgment on him. This is why he became obsessed with Danielle. This is what made Danielle his star. She was the paradigm shift he needed to bring the whole deck of cards created by NAHA to come crumbling down. By giving Danielle the power to judge him, Ray makes Danielle the most powerful person in the story. So now the question becomes, who exactly is Danielle?
Tisk. You. Everything is always about you. Isn't it, Danielle? It's no wonder our relationship went to shit.
Danielle is a narcissist, which is the perfect character trait for the player character of a wish fulfillment visual novel like this one. I define narcissism as the preoccupation with oneself, often manifesting as a need for admiration and a lack of empathy for others. The moral framework of the narcissist can be summarized as, you are good if you are good to me. This binary of narcissistic good versus bad is the third binary presented by the story, and it's very important that it's Danielle, the player character, that holds this flawed view. If you picked up Binary Star, it was very likely that you picked it up because you heard the male lead, Ray, is a yandere. I won't spend too much time doing a deep dive on yandere in this video, but please let me know in the comments if you're interested. What matters is that yandere characters are intensely loving and affectionate, to the point where their love can become obsessive, possessive, and even violent. They may go to extreme lengths, including harming others or themselves, to protect or gain the affection of their love interest. In visual novels, the intensity of emotion portrayed by a character and the lengths they're willing to go to prove their love for the player are the main appeal of yandere. There's a type of narcissism being satisfied by these romance stories. After all, at some point in every relationship, the sentiment "you're mine and I'm yours" will be exchanged. On some fundamental level, everyone wants to possess and be possessed, to love and be loved. But Concrete Parasite cautions the player from indulging so quickly. Danielle cannot ignore Ray's faults just because they're not being immediately pointed at her. That's how you end up with Double Vision, who acts as Ray's foil. We'll get to him soon enough. But if Ray's foil is Double Vision, who's Danielle's? It's the North American Heroes Association. NAHA's relationship with Ray is firmly narcissistic. Ray is a good tool when he does what it wants, and he's a bad tool when he deviates. That's what narcissism does to people. It flattens their character into good and bad, useful and not. The only person from NAHA we interact with, Herschel, is Ray's boss and holds this exact perspective. To grow as a person and to force Ray to grow as well, Danielle must turn away from the narcissistic binary towards empathy and eventually to compassion. She does this by seeing Ray for exactly who he is and judging him. There are plenty of choices you can make in the visual novel to judge Ray as a person, but only 4 of them are the most critical to understand this path from narcissism to compassion: the interview, the confrontation, the kidnapping, and the past. Let's kick things off with the interview.
Do you think heroes are allowed to decide if they want this job?
In this scene, Danielle's watching a PR interview of Binary Star. At this point, she doesn't know that Ray is Binary Star, so she doesn't know that Ray can read her mind. In the interview, they show a montage of Binary Star saving women and children from villains. The interviewer hypes him up as a hero, and they talk about his powers manifesting over the years. When Ray asks Danielle what she thinks about it, Danielle can choose to either soften her opinion to be more socially acceptable, or she can tell her honest feelings that she thinks the interview is really disgusting for taking advantage of the scariest moment in people's lives for PR. Being a mind reader, Ray waits patiently while she decides the best course of action. If Danielle decides to soften the truth and give a generic, politically correct answer, she'll say Binary Star is pretentious, inhuman, gaudy, and shallow. These are all true statements, but they're not really about Ray, they're about NAHA. NAHA are the ones running the PR to make him look like that. Ray goes along with the PR, but it has nothing to do with him as an individual. Danielle doesn't really use her power to judge here. By backing away from her true feelings, she cheapens the value of her words while doing nothing to show Ray he's a person and not a weapon. On the other hand, Danielle can choose to be honest. She can point out how weird it is to see Binary Star with such a forced smile, how heroes have so much media grooming that the inauthenticity dehumanizes them. In return for her honesty, Ray is honest back. He admits that Binary Star probably does feel dehumanized, to the point where if his mask of harem fell off, people would see how empty inside he truly is. The importance of this choice in the story is the establishment of discernment. From Ray's perspective, Danielle being honest with him shows that she is a person of virtue. He can trust what she says is what she actually thinks. This also helps him see that Danielle doesn't fall for PR so easily, allowing her to be a truly impartial judge. This is a good foundation to start with, but what happens to Danielle's judgment when the mask starts slipping? Does it change or stay constant? That's what the next scenario explores. Haley is Danielle's boss and coworker. They've only known each other for about 3 months, but in that time frame, the two of them have gotten quite close. Perhaps because of that closeness, Haley tells Danielle they get a bad feeling from Ray. No matter what choice you make, Ray will show up soon after, meaning that this conversation happened within his mind-reading range. He absolutely knows everything that was said about him. I could give you a play-by-play of the tense scene, but I think it'd be much easier to let you see it yourself.
Hey, before you go. Haley bites their lip, debating. After a couple seconds pass, they speak up. That guy, you said his name was Ray? Yeah, I actually ran into him the other day and he helped me carry my groceries home. Well, look, I kinda get a bad feeling from the guy. Really? I don't really see it. But things are harder when you see through rose-tinted glasses, I guess. Haley gives an awkward laugh. Yeah, that's probably true. Okay, thanks for letting me know. Maybe just keep an eye out for anything that's off. I haven't seen anything weird yet.
What's weird?
God, I feel like I almost had a heart attack. Ray somehow walked up without me even noticing. Nothing weird. We just had some coffee lids go missing recently.
Is that right?
Ray stares directly at Haley, who levels a glare right back at him. He shoots me a quick smile.
Sorry, I don't think I've met your friend yet.
Oh, this is Haley.
Oh, a coworker?
Friend? Haley cuts in quickly.
Sorry for interrupting the conversation. I'm just looking to get the usual before heading to work.
It's almost 5 p.m. and you're just starting work for the day? Yeah, that's strange. What do you do for work?
Law enforcement.
Ray responds without skipping a beat. A tense silence falls between the three of us. I don't quite understand what's going on, but I feel uncomfortable.
Haley, what do you do for work?
What do you mean? I'm obviously at work right now.
This is your only job?
Last I checked, yeah.
Sorry, you just look so familiar. I can't put my finger on it.
Haley looks genuinely annoyed. I could see them bite their cheek, probably keeping themselves from saying anything too unprofessional. You must be thinking of someone else. Haley strains out. Ray smiles, but there was no friendliness in it.
Maybe you're right.
Haley smiles back with an equal amount of spite. You know, we had a celebrity visit. You just missed it. He was a hero, too. This place is quite popular lately. Ray's face falls into a frown. Haley looks at me for a second. I can't imagine why. It's not like we have some kind of hero discount or something. Ray's lips pull tight and he narrows his eyes.
Is that right?
Haley picks at their nails, seeming uninterested. Yeah. What was his name again? Flame? Blade?
Blaze.
Ray mumbles under his breath. Right, that was it. He suddenly looks at me and gives a smile.
Looks like I've overstayed my welcome. I should probably head to work before my new phone blows up.
Ray glances at Haley.
Thanks.
I love this scene because it's the first time you're really on edge because of Ray. It's the first taste of the violence he can cause to Danielle if she's not careful. Haley knows who Ray is. They might not know the extent of his power, but they know he's a dog of the state. Haley hates that society puts heroes on pedestals despite murdering anyone they deem a villain, and they hate that the only group left which entertains reformed criminals rather than killing them is the prison industry, which can use them for cheap labor. Haley has a very strong sense of right and wrong, and binary star is a key symbol of everything wrong with society. Problem is, Haley can't do a thing about it, and both they and Ray know it. So when Ray threatens them, Haley hits him back with what they've observed actually matters to him, Danielle. Haley tells Ray about Blaze stopping by, redirecting the conversation away from them and towards Ray's feelings for Danielle. With Ray being a yandere, his possessiveness will push him to go to Blaze and make it clear that Danielle is his territory, so to speak. He excuses himself and turns to leave. Danielle was fairly passive through this scene. Let's think about what just happened from her perspective. First, her friend, someone whose opinion she deeply trusts, told her that the guy she's got a clear crush on is suspicious and giving them bad vibes. Any woman will tell you this is at least a yellow flag, if not red, when you're considering dating a man. You don't need your friends to like your romantic interest, but if they're good friends, their perspective should have some impact on how you consider moving forward with a guy. As outside observers, your friends can see things you can't when you're wearing those rose-tinted glasses.
What happened, Bojack?
Same thing that always happens. You didn't know me. Then you fell in love with me. And now you know me.
You know, it's funny. When you look at someone through rose-colored glasses, All the red flags just look like flags.
In this case, Haley can see that Ray is Binary Star, a notorious killer for NAHA. It's a pretty big red flag. Second, Danielle saw the guy she's interested in appear out of nowhere and immediately get into a tense confrontation with her friend. He questions them, and the two of them look at each other with malice. You don't expect a regular guy to show aggressive behavior so quickly. And since Danielle is fairly new to the city and separated from her family, Haley and Miles are effectively her only connections outside of Ray. Ray is a yandere, and so he's very possessive. Taken to its logical extreme, Ray's possessiveness will make him more controlling over Danielle's life. This is the Binary Star ending, where Danielle is a caged bird in Ray's condo. Quick tangent here. Because Double Vision is Ray's foil, the author includes warnings of him doing this as well. When Caliber was trying to leave the underworld, we know she was close with at least two gang members, Marsh and Ripley. Marsh was beaten to death by Double for trying to help Caliber, and Ripley had his fingers chopped off. That scared Ripley enough not to try and help her. That was Caliber's support network then. When Danielle is kidnapped by Double later in the story, Ripley is there, but he's not going to help. He is no longer part of Danielle's support network. Thus, in the warehouse, like in the condo, Danielle is truly isolated. With all this in mind, we see that this is where the much more important decision for Danielle comes up. Does she close herself off from Ray or offer Ray kindness despite his very obvious red flags? Ray is a mind reader, so he knows Danielle remembered that he initially came in for their usual coffee and flirting ritual before work. She doesn't know how dangerous he is yet. If Danielle chooses to just wish him a good day at work, she's rebuffing him from that ritual, signaling she's no longer into it, and that his behavior with Haley unnerved her enough that she wants to distance herself from him. This makes Ray more miserable going to work, where he'll likely do things for NAHA which will deepen his self-resentment. It likely also worries him because if he's to be pushed away for something as relatively simple as sending veiled threats to Haley, how would Danielle react if she knew the extent of his villainy? She'd think he's a monster. She'd be right. Now, if Danielle decides to give Ray a coffee before he leaves, she's actively choosing to look past Ray's red flags and extend her connection to him anyway. She's giving him the benefit of the doubt. To Ray's eyes, she's extending kindness and consideration which he doesn't believe he really deserves. But he's now being judged as worthy of that. And if he's worthy of kindness and consideration, he can't be that bad a guy, can he? This choice is the first hint to Danielle that Ray isn't perfect. She likes Ray, that much is clear, but neither choice the player makes allows Danielle to ignore these red flags. Instead, they ask Danielle whether or not that's enough to push him away. By saying it's not, and offering Ray a coffee despite his antagonism to her friend, Danielle is likely still following the "you're good if you're good to me" paradigm. After all, she wasn't being threatened here. Haley was. I really feel for Haley here because no matter how Danielle responds, they're worried for her safety. They know Danielle hasn't figured out that Ray is Binary Star, and they don't know if that information will make her safer or put her in danger, so they move on and try to keep Danielle's mood up. As a good friend, that's all they can do for now. Sometimes, no matter how much you might want to help someone, they won't take a problem seriously until they hit rock bottom. Binary Star Hero explores what that looks like through Danielle's relationship with Double Vision. By the way, if you're enjoying the video so far, I'd really appreciate it if you comment, share, and subscribe. Every bit helps for a small YouTuber. And please, leave comments of your thoughts. I would love to read them. Alright, back to the show. In visual novels, the intensity of emotion portrayed by a character and the lengths they're willing to go to prove their love for the player is the main appeal of yandere. There is a type of narcissism being satisfied by these romance stories. This is how the player is called out directly by the author, ironically in the most romantic scene of the base game. Ray and Danielle are having a heart-to-heart in bed. Ray's just told her about his time with Steel Sheriff. When he asks how Danielle handled her relationship with Double Vision, Danielle gives the most important lines in the story. She says,
Double wasn't always bad. He was very courteous to me most of the time. But things started to go bad, and then didn't stop snowballing. I think maybe he was manipulative and violent all along, but because it wasn't pointed at me, I refused to look. And other people got hurt because of that.
By doing this, Danielle solidifies her narcissism in the text, and thus firmly cements Double Vision as Ray's foil in this little love triangle. Both have black eyes, which you can't tell me isn't on purpose. Both are very powerful men, with Double having teleportation and running a powerful criminal organization, and Ray having so many stolen powers. Both are obsessive and very possessive of Danielle. The only difference is that Ray is nice to Danielle, while Double is quite cruel. But we were just told explicitly that Double Vision started the same.
For a while, it was peaceful, even fun. Then slowly, things started to change. Every time I gave an inch, he started to take 2 inches. Then he would take a foot. Eventually, he wasn't even satisfied with a mile.
When you have a situation where one party is significantly weaker than the other, that power imbalance really opens up the opportunity for abuse. I don't mean that power imbalance in a relationship is inherently bad per se, but if the more powerful party doesn't take active steps to protect the weaker party from themselves, abuse of power is inevitable. For an average person's relationship with a superhero or supervillain, that's even more sensitive. We see what happens when abuse of power falls over the deep end during Danielle's kidnapping. After Ray saves Danielle as Binary Star and Danielle finally puts 2 and 2 together, realizing that they are both the same man, she's kidnapped by Double Vision and taken to his warehouse. Throughout this section of the story, there's so many good lines that hit on Double's role as Ray's foil.
Double winks as if reading my mind.
Reinforced just for you. And you think I don't know you? Let's face it, Danielle, nobody knows you better than I do.
Double knows Danielle through the many years they spent together in the criminal world, and although Ray has the power to read minds, Double's experience grants him deeper understanding of Danielle and her thought process. He knows that Danielle is a narcissist, and leans into that with his choice of words. Just for you. I know you. Nobody knows you better than me. These are phrases which, when used in any other piece of romantic media, are meant to endear the reader to the male lead.
He sighs in almost a dreamlike way. His smile is genuine, as if he's truly having fun. Fucking psycho.
What happens when you ignore red flags? You get hurt. If you have the means to get away from your abuser, you should take it. Don't second guess yourself. Don't talk yourself out of it. Don't make excuses for them.
No, don't you dare look away from me, from this. You have to witness the loss of something valuable, just like I did. If you close your eyes, I will take another finger for good measure.
Abusers have all sorts of methods of keeping their victims in line. DARVO, deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender, is a foundational aspect of their playbook.
Well, did you then go on the attack and swap the accusations to make yourself a victim? Did I what?
Double Vision's whole arc is DARVO Manifest. He denies there was ever a reason for Danielle to leave him. He never hurt her. He uses the narcissist's prayer. That didn't happen, and if it did, it wasn't that bad, and if it was, it's not a big deal, and if it is, it's not my fault, and if it is, I didn't mean it, and if I did, you deserved it. He blames Danielle for ruining a great relationship by escaping him, and this kidnapping is simply the consequences of her actions. He's hurting her because she deserves it. In a roundabout way, she asked for it.
Oh, Danielle. Oh, it's okay. Don't cry, honey. This will be over before you can blink. I'll take care of you nicely throughout the healing process. I promise.
Geez, you're really good at that.
Double has incredible control over the situation. Everything he does, everything he says, is tailor-made to heighten Danielle's fear. The goal of this isn't just the sadism, it's the power. Like many abusive men in power, Double doesn't see Danielle as a person. He sees her as a thing to possess, and he wants her to share that perspective.
Are you in love?
I am in love. Are you in love?
I'm in love too.
I agree.
This means gaslighting, put-downs, and physical violence aren't enough. He has to sprinkle in some kindness in there. Intermittent reinforcement, or periodic affection at unpredictable moments, is key to creating the instability and emotional exhaustion Double needs to keep his victim in line. So long as she feels this way, he has power. For your reference, this article has great examples of what to look for. As I've outlined here, the blame for abuse is firmly in the abuser's hands. Victims are not responsible for their abuser's actions. Blaming the victim for these actions by asking callous questions like, "What did you do? What were you wearing?" or "Aren't you overreacting?" helps no one but the abuser. That being said, escaping an abuser is only part of the battle. The next step, one that a victim might struggle with, is understanding why they tolerated the abuse for as long as they did. This isn't about blame, it's about breaking cycles. Some survivors, like Danielle, may need to examine the mental frameworks that lead them to overlook red flags and abuse in the first place. In Danielle's case, her narcissistic binary thinking, her tendency to judge people solely by how they treat her, allowed her to dismiss Double Vision's worst traits until it was too late. This kind of self-reflection isn't about guilt, it's about growth. If Danielle wants to avoid falling into another abusive relationship, she needs to challenge the way she assigns moral value based on personal experience alone. Only then can she move beyond the binary and recognize danger before it's too late. Just to reiterate what I'm trying to say, because I know this is a highly emotionally charged topic, my core message here is abuse is never the victim's fault. Victims don't cause abuse, but they may need to examine why they tolerated it. Danielle specifically needs to reevaluate her worldview to prevent history from repeating itself. Now, Danielle knows the truth. She knows that Ray is binary star, he's powerful, and people are right to fear him. Ray can kill anyone with such ease and efficiency that it sent Double packing. We've gone past red flags here. Ray is literally covered in red. But Danielle also knows that Ray looked everywhere for her. He was fighting aliens on national television, and the moment he realized she was in danger, he found her and he saved her. He chose her, and because he chose her, she's safe from Double. Ray's good to her, for now at least, but he's also a monster. After Ray kills all of Double's henchmen, he frees Danielle and tries to comfort her. Unfortunately, he's covered in blood, and Danielle is experiencing PTSD from the entire ordeal.
I notice his eyes are back to black. Some part of me is thankful for it. But like a gun with the safety on, I feel as relieved as I can knowing danger is only an impulse away.
This section of the game is fantastic because it brings all three binaries we've discussed front and center and forces us and the characters to wrestle with them. How you handle the rest of the game depends entirely on which binaries you hold on to, which you affirm and which you reject. These decisions determine how Danielle judges Ray and thus how the story ends. This is the turning point of the story.
Danielle, you should think hard and make a decision. Do you want to live at the whims of a cruel, unforgiving creature? Or would you rather die?
Let's go over the three binaries again. First, the outsider's view of Ray, represented by the government, the public, and the underground. Ray is savior, Ray is death. Second, Ray's status morality. Good people work within the law, bad people work outside the law. And third, Danielle's narcissistic morality. You are good if you are good to me, you are bad if you are bad to me. Starting with the first binary, at this point of the story, Danielle knows that Ray is death. She just witnessed it firsthand, and she witnessed the murder of Blaze by Ray secondhand, but he is also her savior. Twice now, once from the alien and once from Double Vision, Ray has saved her life. As for Ray, he has completely accepted that he is death long before now, seeing anything positive about himself or Binary Star as PR bullshit. He's a horrible person. Through the lens of Danielle's narcissistic morality, nothing Ray has done has been physically bad for her yet. At most, she's been emotionally and mentally hurt by Ray's actions in the warehouse, but she could choose to excuse that on the point that Ray was trying to help her. As you've noticed throughout this video essay, Ray's status beliefs encourage him to completely externalize his morality. He's been raised with an external locus of control since childhood, and he only feels comfortable moving forward by having someone else, Danielle, guide him. In the end, he even admits that it was wrong of him to put this pressure on her. Like a very dangerous black sheep, he is desperate for a shepherd. It's a major character flaw that is at the foundation of Ray's villainy. I've mentioned before that a villain is a failed hero, but failure isn't permanent. It's only permanent when you give up. Ray hasn't given up, not yet, but with the stress of the alien invasion, NAHA bringing down his neck all the time, and the fear of Double Vision reappearing and taking the only person he actually cares about away from him, Ray is starting to lose it. Danielle needs to pass judgment and end his cognitive dissonance. It's not a position I envy. After Double Vision's kidnapping, there are a few more choices the player can make regarding how Danielle interacts with Ray from then on, before the endings kick in, but the one I want to hone in on is the question about Ray's past.
I'm impervious to poison, so you wouldn't do any damage to me with that method.
For context of this scene, Ray spent last night arguing with NAHA while crashing at Danielle's apartment. As a consequence, he actually had a good night's sleep, which is very rare for him. He's taking a shower, and Danielle decides to look through Ray's duffel bag. She does this because she's skeptical of him. After everything that's happened so far, with his secrecy about his life and his actions at the warehouse, how couldn't she feel a little unsafe? She is unsafe, even if Ray might have pure intentions. While snooping through Ray's things, Danielle can have a brief interaction with Herschel from NAHA over the phone, or she can look through Ray's notebook. Neither of these bring forward information I haven't mentioned yet. What's curious is that, as Danielle puts everything away, Ray's wallet falls out. That's where Danielle finds a picture of herself in her Caliber villain outfit, petting a cat. We've come full circle, returning to the moment that changed everything for Ray. You know his story, you know what he's struggling with and why he's so desperate to connect with Danielle. But Danielle doesn't know how deep this goes. Danielle knows that Ray had a tough past, though she doesn't know the details. She knows Ray is capable of killing an entire gang of hardened criminals in minutes and strong enough to make Double Vision run away with his tail between his legs. Danielle knows that Ray will put everything aside to try and help her, whether that's making dinner or rushing to save her. She knows that Ray cares about her and she reciprocates. Although they've only known each other for about a week, they clearly have some deeper connections. But put yourself in Danielle's shoes here. If you found a candid photo of yourself in the possession of a man you just met a week ago, wouldn't that worry you? Would knowing he potentially had it for 3 years make you feel nervous? Could you trust that man? Could you really?
It seems like you are unnerved by me on some level, that you don't trust me. So ask me whatever you want. If you ask, I'll tell you anything. What do you want to know, Danielle?
Danielle is presented with two options here. Ask about the photo or ask about Ray's abilities. Let's ask ourselves what's on Danielle's mind that would make her ask about Ray's abilities. Danielle already knows his abilities. She knows about his mind reading, his flight, his laser eyes. As the nation's most popular hero, everyone knows his abilities as they manifest. There's a whole PR machine to make sure everyone knows how powerful Binary Star is. If that's the case, why would she ask? She thinks back to Blaze and how he smiled at her with malice. How Ray's former sidekick could say he's not a hero. How Binary Star, how Ray reacted by threatening Luke's life.
Have fun with your golden boy. A hero from the stars? Yeah, right. Hope you know what you're getting yourself into, Danielle.
If he's so willing to hurt his sidekick, will he hurt me? Is what Danielle's asking herself here.
It's, I guess a feeling. Like, kinda a bad one. Something doesn't feel genuine with him. I look at his face, smeared with death. He has a peculiar expression, something I can't quite place.
If Danielle asks about his abilities, it's because of doubt. Some part of her doesn't believe that Ray's intentions are positive no matter what he says. She's judged him as untrustworthy. And that deeply hurts Ray because he's believed for so long that Danielle might see something within him beyond what NAHA has told him he is, that he might not be a weapon or a monster, that he might at least be her hero if no one else's. What if Danielle chooses to ask about the photo instead? When Danielle makes this choice, Ray is reading her mind. He knows she's actively choosing to push past these doubts and trust that Ray does have positive intentions, even if he doesn't always communicate that very well. After all, pretty much every interaction these two have together is positive. Their conversations flow easily. They tease each other, they joke, they laugh. Their chemistry is right out of a romance novel. Danielle is essentially extending an olive branch here, telling Ray that despite everything she's witnessed from him, she's still trustworthy in her eyes. I can't imagine how validated Ray must have felt in that moment. He accepts Danielle's trust and shows her trust in return by telling her the truth about the photo and its relevance to him, how he hoped to get closer to her as Ray or binary star, whichever she preferred.
After 3 years, I came to the conclusion that you are what matters. Not crime, not justice, not criminals or villains, or civilians, or even the earth itself. It's you, Danielle.
It's a beautiful moment and the last major choice the player has to interact with Ray before the endings. We have now witnessed Stage 6 of Ray's hero's journey, tests, allies, and enemies. Every moment of their relationship, the attraction, the hesitation, the unease, has built towards this final choice. Danielle has seen Ray at his most violent and his most vulnerable. She knows what he is capable of, both as savior and as a monster. And now, whether she realizes it or not, her verdict will define him. Desperate for final judgment, Ray uses Blaze's stolen powers to set Danielle's apartment on fire. Ray forces her to tell him who he is. We have entered Stage 7, Approach to the Innermost Cave. Each ending represents a different answer to the question Ray has been asking all along. Who am I? By evaluating different combinations of binary thought. Let's explore each of them.
The child from the stars. Binary star, that poor bastard. I bet you're right. If his face did smile any harder, it would just fall off. And underneath it would be an endless pit.
The Ray bad ending chooses the negative of the first and last binaries, and Ray's status binary is destroyed. Danielle knows that Ray is death. She witnessed the murder of Blaze by Ray secondhand. She's been warned by everyone she knows to be careful about Ray. She's witnessed Ray murder 20 men with ease. Danielle calls him a psycho murderer, like she calls Double a psycho. She closes herself off from him. With every rebuff, Danielle tells Ray that even if he works within NAHA, that doesn't absolve him. He is a bad person, and NAHA was right to relegate him to being a tool for destruction because that's fundamentally what he is. Ray is the robot with a human face. This is where Ray stops believing that the law means anything at all. He's rejected statism for nihilism.
I won't deny what I am, Danielle. Luke was right. I am a monster. I'm not a hero from the stars. I am essentially only one thing: a government-funded military weapon. Nothing can change that.
If statism gave him meaning, it has now failed him completely. The law has not made him good. It has not saved him. It has not redeemed him. And with Danielle's rejection, he sees no future beyond the destruction he has always been capable of. The Ray bad ending is the logical conclusion of this. Ray's final ordeal, his final judgment, has ended in condemnation. Note that the track that plays during this ending is called Debaser, and it includes the panting of Double Vision's theme. Coincidence? I think not. Does this mean you've debased Ray, or has Ray debased himself? Either way, Ray's final ordeal is over. He has been judged to be a monster, and his reward for this is the murder of the woman he loved. His road back to the ordinary world will be one of death and destruction. We don't know what the rest of his story will look like, but we know it will be bloody.
Binary star is so far removed from humanity, he might as well be from the stars. He is a creature without weaknesses. Well, I guess now he has one, and God knows he's going to keep that bitch on a short leash.
In the binary star ending, there is a complete affirmation of all three binaries. Ray is savior, Ray is working within the law, and Ray is good to Danielle. Danielle turning a blind eye to Ray's character flaws and mental health issues to center herself, her needs, and her safety doesn't solve anything. They remain together, yes, but there's no love there. There's only codependency and abuse down this path, a reflection of what we saw with Double. Ray and Danielle are trapped in a hollow performative relationship. By telling Ray he is good if he is good to her, Danielle does not address Ray's fundamental issues around his role at NAHA. He is unable to satisfy the cognitive dissonance between statism and his actions. He's hurting people with NAHA, but he's still good? He's a savior, but he doesn't want to keep doing NAHA's bidding. Worse yet, Danielle is clearly scared of him. He lives and eats and probably sleeps with Danielle, but he's not even happy with her. He just has her. She isn't a partner, but a possession, a bird in a cage.
I may have lost my cool. I'll admit that. But if you heard what they wanted to do with you in their thoughts, you would feel the same way I did.
Their relationship is incredibly strained, where they barely speak to each other and Danielle is always on edge around Binary Star. When aliens attack the city, Binary Star refuses to help, knowing full well that other superheroes have no chance to stop the invasion. It doesn't matter how much Danielle begs, he's not doing it. He can't bring himself to care anymore. Binary Star remains someone with an external locus of control in this ending, still searching for direction. Danielle was supposed to point him in the right direction, but now he's as stressed as ever. He doesn't feel any better. Listening to his star was a waste of his time. He had misplaced his faith in her. The only way Danielle can force Binary Star's hand is to suggest having a family with him. He latches onto that idea, and maybe a part of him thinks that the solution to his cognitive dissonance will come from the child, from having a family like a normal person. Because, of course, having a kid always solves every relation problem ever. The thought of having a child encourages him to put his feelings on NAHA aside in order to save the world. But is this really okay? Binary Star wasn't satisfied with possessing Danielle. He wasn't satisfied with keeping her under effective house arrest. What happens if having a child isn't as satisfying as he hoped? What happens if that child has similar powers as him? I strongly doubt that Binary Star would react well to it. Through the Binary Star ending, we see that Ray's ordeal was simply to don the mask of Binary Star in his personal life, erasing himself. His reward is more work with NAHA and the slow death of a relationship. The road back is the return to a sort of dark night of the soul, which he had failed to overcome. Binary Star finds no peace here.
You had become my binary star, and without you, my balance was off. I became a zombie during the day. I would just smile and say what they wanted me to, and at night I sought you out.
The Quasar ending is where our leads escape the first binary. Ray is no longer savior or death, Ray is both, and there's no need to hide from that reality anymore. They both see it, they both accept it. For her part, Danielle has chosen the negative for the third binary. Ray is bad for her. She cannot see a future with him, and between staying with him or oblivion, she chooses the latter. I'm not 100% positive that the text is saying Ray is literally going to destroy the world after this, which is very likely based on how intentional Concrete's writing is, but for the sake of analysis, let's assume he's not, and it's completely metaphorical. We are not explicitly told if Ray has made a decision on his statism at this point. Although he's done a lot of bad, from ignoring orders to killing Blaze and now killing Danielle, Ray could still decide to view this situation as working within the law. After all, if Steel Sheriff can commit sexual assault and murder and the government treats him well anyway, surely it's okay if he does this, right? As much as he cares about Danielle, very few people are going to care about a no-name barista dying in an apartment fire. And those who would care can't do a thing to him for fear of facing the same fate. Compared to his work with NAHA, this is downright tame. From my perspective, I would say that in this situation, Ray has not escaped his binary morality on statism. He works within the law, and he remains a bad person. He tells himself that's okay, and this is a well-trod path of the Steel Sheriff, but I don't think that will satisfy him. It didn't satisfy him at the beginning of the story, after all.
Some part of me thought you could save me. I realize I was wrong to even place that expectation on you. I am sorry for that, Danielle.
Through the hero's journey, Ray's reward for this ordeal is the consumption of the woman he loved. When he continues his hero's journey taking the road back to NAHA, he will not be satisfied. Ray's cognitive dissonance will likely continue long after the story ends, but it seems that, at least for now, he's accepted it as a part of life. And if the text is being literal and his intention is to actually destroy the planet and himself, Then he saved us a lot of time, and this essay can end early. Alright, let's look at the last ending.
I fell for Ray in the coffee shop, not the edited hero on the magazine.
I want you to note that this ending isn't called the Ray good ending, like the Ray bad ending. This is the Ray ending, and it's that because it's the only ending where Ray becomes a complete person. Danielle's role in this ending, as judge, is to help Ray push past his binary status moral framework, but she cannot do that without pushing past her own narcissistic binary, as we've explored in the 4 choices. Danielle breaking past her narcissism allows her to see Ray for who he really is, a deeply flawed, deeply hopeful man. A man who has killed with ease, but hates what he's become. A man so fractured between who he is and who he's supposed to be that he's barely holding himself together. A man who wants to love and be loved even as he fears he's incapable of either. And most importantly, a man who doesn't want to hurt people, even if that's the only thing the world has ever asked of him. That's why my favorite line for Danielle to use to Ray during the fire is this: "That's cruel." It's such a simple statement, but it's so important to show us how Danielle isn't turning away from Ray's character flaws. She's seeing that negative part of him. The final choice, "Save me, Ray," is Danielle telling Ray that those flaws don't have to hold him back. In this ordeal, Danielle's greatest act of judgment isn't condemning Ray. Instead, she's choosing to see him as both savior and death and doesn't turn him away for that. This is Danielle's demonstration of compassion towards Ray. She is not looking at him as a narcissist, asking herself what he can do for her. She's looking at him with empathy and kindness. She's telling him that, despite everything, he's worthy of that. From the very beginning of this story, Ray asked,
"Who am I?"
And Danielle answers in this ending with,
You are Ray. I see you. All of you.
Through the eyes of the hero's journey, Ray's reward isn't just being seen. It's being seen and still chosen. After a lifetime of being used, feared, and worshipped, Danielle gives him the one thing he's always been denied: the chance to be both sinner and saint, villain and hero, and still worthy of love. And that's all he needs to finally leave his status beliefs behind. Danielle has opened the door to the redemption arc, demonstrating the villain's failure and subsequent self-overcoming to reach the level of hero.
All this time, you've been what people wanted you to be. But the truth is, I don't want you to be anyone. I want to grow into someone with you.
The road back in the Ray ending is Ray and Danielle strengthening their bond and relationship, setting boundaries and working to respect them, being kind to each other, being honest with one another. The story will continue on without us. Ray will face his resurrection at some point, and I think that resurrection will have to do with his relationship with NAHA, but that's the work of a fanfic writer to take over. For now, Ray still dons the cape as Binary Star. It's still a part of him, and I don't doubt that he's still going to do unsavory things for NAHA. But now, at least, he has someone with him who grounds him and shows him the way to redemption. Danielle and Ray can finally orbit each other, love and be loved. Phew, it's over. Oh my god, it's finally over. I started this essay 3 months ago in a manic state, typing out about 3,000 words of sporadic thoughts, and only now have I been able to wrangle everything together into a semi-coherent 10,000 word script, and now a 1,000 word postscript. God, I can't wait to see how long it takes me to edit this. Oh gosh. I do want to say that I kind of hit a roadblock. I've replayed this game dozens of times to write this essay, and in that time I got the CG once. Since then, I haven't been able to get it again, and it's been driving me crazy because I want to make sure I've covered all of my bases here, but failed attempt after failed attempt to get this CG again has led me to give up. If anyone knows how to get it, please let me know in the comments. Also, another brain fart here. Would you believe me if I said I didn't know the default names and pronouns of the player character were Blake and they, them until I actually looked through the fan content on Tumblr? I straight up spent 20 minutes on baby naming sites trying to find a name that fit with the themes of my video essay before settling on Danielle and she, her, and by then I was already attached. Whoops. Hope that wasn't too jarring for everybody. Anyway, Binary Star Hero really left a mark on me, and it's clear that it's impacted so many other people. The talented artists who I've shared here were kind enough to let me include their work in this video, and if any piece stood out to you, I highly encourage you to check out more of their work. None of this could have been possible, of course, without Concrete Parasite and her imagination. She came up with the concept, made great art, coded everything, and wrote this amazing story. Her writing skill is masterclass. Her ability to make the player feel like they're really Danielle, experiencing happiness, dread, fear, and so many other emotions is a testament to that. Concrete is also really good at spreading information throughout the story, and even then just bits and pieces, so you're desperate for more information and your imagination runs wild. I think that's a big part of why so many people keep coming back to this visual novel and creating fan works around it. Speaking of which, I kept coming back to the album. The music is so good in this visual novel. I'm not familiar with what goes on into making music, so I can't really say much more than Zach Valence did an amazing job. The vibes, guys, it's so good. My 2024 YouTube Rewind was dominated by this album. Concrete and Zach are an amazing creative duo, and from what I've seen of their work on Favor so far, I'm confident they'll keep improving their skills. I can't wait to see what they come up with. I highly recommend that if you get the chance, you check out the Binary Star Hero Tumblr page. There, Concrete answers fan questions about the characters. There are so many interesting points made, like Ray's character inspirations, or exactly how NAHA got a hold of Ray and his brother. Looking through the asks, I'm happy to say that there are some points I was right about, but there are others I was way off base about. That's the fun of fan projects like this. You learn so much and find surprises where you didn't expect them. Personally, this trio of asks around Ray and Steel Sheriff, Binary Star as a father, and Ray as a father were the most fascinating to me. It really makes you wonder how someone's upbringing impacts their parenting skills and ability. Would Ray be able to break the cycle, so to speak, of familial heartbreak and pain? He'd certainly try his best. I mean, that's all anyone can do, really. And guys, I haven't even touched the Haley and Double Vision endings. Imagine the fun you could have just analyzing those. Thanks for watching this video. Seriously, I know it's not perfect, but it's a labor of love, and having other fans watch it really means a lot to me. At the end of the day, Binary Star Hero isn't just about a hero, a villain, or a love story. It's about breaking free from the boxes we're forced into. It's about seeing people, really seeing them, flaws and all. And maybe, if we're lucky, being seen in return. If you would like to continue supporting my work, please subscribe, comment, and share. You can follow me on Blue Sky, and if you want to donate some cash, here's my coffee. I absolutely recommend that you check out my visual novel, Lady of the Forest. It's not as good as Binary Star Hero, but I worked really hard on it. And for more content from me, check out this video of Flow, where I go full doomer on the climate change situation. Or if that's not your speed, this video on Mars Express, where I explore the societal impacts of technology in the film. Alright, thanks again for watching. Okay, bye!